What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman. Avengers Endgame delivered on a ton of levels, including an ending that attempted to wrap up all of the story arcs for the major 6 Avengers, and those characters carrying on into Phase 4, ancillary or not, seemed to be set on some sort of path, and they gave us some sort of hint as to where they'd be headed. Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie is now the king of Asgard. Thor is now an Asgardian of the galaxy. Hulk remains to be seen, except we all know what happened to Cap and Iron Man. Ronan is back with his family, and Black Widow has passed away, and we'll do another video on what the new Avengers will look like going into Phase 4. However, where many of us assumed there'd be at least a post-credit scene teasing the next phase's big bad, there was none to be found, and that's because the villain was actually teased during the movie. We're going to break down the scene and dialogue, what was said between 2 specific characters that teased the next phase's villain, and why it's gotta be Galactus. But first, if you could, grab the subscribe button. We're giving away 2 PlayStation 4 Pros, as well as a whole slew of other Marvel-related stuff, including tickets to go see Avengers Endgame in IMAX while it's still in theaters. All you have to do, hit the subscribe button, then hit the notification bell, leave a like and a comment on the video, and if you want, stick around to the end of the video. I'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Now, first things first, let's start with the only official quote we have from Kevin Feige himself regarding the villain of Phase 4, and what he said in an interview about Phase 4 was that they're going to do 2 distinctive things, and they hope it feels like 2 different things. And what I took that to mean is, as the MCU expands into the Marvel Cosmic Universe, there's going to be 2 sets of heroes. Those heroes whose power sets are way better suited for Earth-based fights, and those heroes who actually have the power set that can compete on the cosmic level. And as we expand into these 2 realms, you can have an Earth-based threat that you work towards in the next phase, and a cosmic threat. For the sake of this video, and because of the scene and the dialogue that was said, we are only regarding the cosmic threat, and I'm guessing that Spider-Man Far From Home, as it is the last movie in Phase 3, is going to go a long way in expanding on the next Earthbound threat, but more on that later. Now, the scene that foretells Galactus starts when Hulk, Tony, Cap, and Ant-Man all travel back to the Battle of New York. There's 4 of them and 3 stones, so they have to split up, and it's absolutely no coincidence that Hulk is the one sent to retrieve the Time Stone. If you remember, during Infinity War, Hulk is the one who crashes through the Sanctum Sanctorum roof to warn us that Thanos is coming. This was a role originally held in the comics by none other than the Herald of Galactus himself, Silver Surfer. And while Hulk worked perfectly in the narrative in this role, because we don't yet have Silver Surfer in the MCU, and looking at Infinity War just by itself, you would think it's nothing more than that, a choice for narrative reasons. But seldom in the MCU are things mistakes, coincidences, and quote, for narrative reasons, unquote, and the rest of this scene really sets the context for that. When Banner finally reaches the Sanctum Sanctorum, he explains to the Ancient One that he needs to take the Time Stone, and they have a discussion about why he can't do that. It's not only until after he reveals that Doctor Strange is the one who willingly gave it up, leading them to this predicament in order to secure a new one, that the Ancient One realizes she's the one making the mistake, because Strange is supposed to be, as she says, quote, the best of them. During their conversation about the timeline, in which she tells them, if you take an Infinity Stone with you, our timeline branches at that point. You'll notice that the timeline branches become dark, black, and smoke, as opposed to the main continuity timeline that has the bright orange light in the middle. This is to imply that the Infinity Stones are no longer there, and listen closely to exactly what she says to Banner. Now, this may benefit your new reality, referring to him taking the Time Stone, but my new one, not so much. In this new branch reality, without our chief weapon against the forces of darkness, our world would be overrun, millions would suffer. And then she goes on to say, now tell me, doctor, can your science prevent all that? He explains, yes, we'll bring the Time Stone back to you. Which is all good and well, except let's think back to the end of Avengers Endgame, and our main continuity, the timeline that the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, exists in. There's no Infinity Stones to be had. Thanos destroyed that timeline's, that reality's Infinity Stones, and the Avengers had to borrow them from the past in order to get this done. They then went ahead through Captain America and returned all those stones, leaving the current timeline completely Infinity Stoneless. Now, if what the Ancient One said is true, and there's plenty of evidence to back it up, for instance, when Doctor Strange had to defeat Dormammu, if not for the Time Stone, he wouldn't have been able to lock him in a time loop. When the Avengers faced Ultron, they used Vision and ultimately the Mind Stone to help them defeat him, and when they faced off against Thanos, they needed all of the stones and a couple of lives of the Avengers in order to defeat him. This is the evidence that yes, these Infinity Stones are our chief chief weapon against the forces of darkness. But what happens in our main continuity with no Infinity Stones going forward? This opens us up to all sorts of cosmic horrors. Now, there's only a couple of big bads on the scale that are big enough to rival Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, and we can already tell with 100% certainty that there's no chance at all of seeing Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, or any of the villains or sagas that go related with the X-Men, as they're still releasing that Dark Phoenix movie, and they're not going to put the X-Men in the MCU for the next 5 to 10 years. But Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios haven't said a word, and not by coincidence, about the Fantastic Four, meaning when San Diego Comic-Con comes up in a couple of months, they're the most likely new team to be announced. And if we see them in the next phase, Galactus makes the most sense for an overarching cosmic threat. Now, to those of you who would say, doesn't Doctor Doom make a lot more sense as the first villain for the Fantastic Four to face? Of course, we all know that Fox script that was in development for a solo Doctor Doom movie by Legion's director and writer has been moved over to Marvel Studios. Whether it's greenlit or not, it's yet to be foreseen. But doesn't that make more sense for them? And it does. It absolutely does. But remember, we're talking about what's going to be set up through the next 5 to 10 years in the phases during the cosmic universe. What is that huge overarching threat? Doom doesn't really reach up to that level. Not that he's just an Earth-based threat, but rather if the Fantastic Four could face off against him in the first or second movie, either defeat him or leave him as a lingering threat unanswered, but set up Galactus in the overarching threat for the next phase. Of course, the introduction of Silver Surfer, Norrin Radd, would also be imminent. I think it makes sense because of the power level of the heroes that are going into the next realm, and if we're not doing the X-Men and we are doing the Fantastic Four, then Galactus makes a lot more sense as the cosmic villain to line up with the power levels of the new heroes we already know we have and the new heroes we know we'll be getting, like Captain Marvel and or Adam Warlock. Now, as far as the Earth-based threat, a lot of rumors have been the Sinister Six leading through the Spider-Man arc, as he will have one more movie left after Far From Home. We also know Namor may be joining Black Panther and or the Doctor Strange movie and their conquest, and that could all line up against Doom, like I said, as an Earth-based threat instead of the Sinister Six. But when it comes to a cosmic threat, I'd be very cautious to say that it would just be Dormammu again, as I've seen a lot of people seem to indicate, as it would just be them hashing out a villain they've already done, and Doctor Strange already defeated him. He won by installing a bargain in which Dormammu agreed to never come back. We all know that Doctor Strange doesn't have the Time Stone anymore, but it's not like Dormammu's going to reinvade because he knows that. They agreed for that not to happen. I can see an argument being made there, but it doesn't seem logical. And lastly, the only other villain I've seen mentioned that seems to make any sense, especially if they keep the Avengers around, is Kang. I've brought him up myself, but let's just say if the next phase or 3 and the next saga lead into whatever new teams following Kang through the multiverse in time just to fix things, won't that feel a lot like Avengers Endgame? And I doubt Marvel Studios is going to let the first and second saga end with the same narrative fix. That's just an old and rusty sword. I doubt they would do. So literally, Galactus is more of the power of deduction, but when you look back at that scene, the Ancient One warns us without Infinity Stones, we don't have our chief weapon, also telling the person who played the Herald of Galactus in Simulacrum in the movie before. It just seems to add up and make the most sense again with the power level of the heroes we're going to have, like Captain Marvel and Adam Warlock, that Galactus might be the big bad they face off against at the end of phase 5 or 6, depending on however long this next saga takes. Guys, let me know specifically what you think in the comments, and if Galactus is an all or nothing bust for you, or if you'd rather see them explore villains unforeseen and unexplored before, like Annihilus and some things deeper in the bag. Also remember, a lot of these movies are going to bring up villains we haven't seen before, as Doctor Strange is rumored to feature Mephisto instead of what we all thought would be a wrap up to the Baron Mordo storyline. Again, let me know what you think in the comments, and quickly, let's get into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. All right, we're giving away 2 PlayStation 4 Pros, one at the 400,000 subscriber mark and another one away over on my Spotify account. Guys, if you want a great chance to win a PlayStation, as not a lot of people are doing this, less than 1,000 people have done it already, all you got to do, follow the link below over to my Spotify account. If you have one, just stream my song and follow me, and or if you don't, it's free to make one. Then send the screenshot to everythingalwaysYT@gmail.com. It's an easy and free way to try to win a PlayStation with much better odds, and it's a great way to support me without you having to spend a single dollar. Also, here at the channel, we're going to be announcing all sorts of new Hot Toys prizes, as well as tickets to go see Avengers Endgame while they're still in theaters, and DVDs for Endgame once they come out on sale. If you want to win any of this stuff, the PlayStations, the tickets, all you got to do, hit the subscribe button, leave a like and a comment on this video, then hit the notification bell because the more videos that you like and comment on, the better chance you have of winning. And if you need to, just rewind to hear the rules about the Spotify account follow PlayStation. Again, that's everythingalwaysYT@gmail.com. My name's Michael Roman. This is Everything Always. Thanks for checking out the channel, guys, and stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.